What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Blerd Out. The new One Piece chapter has dropped, so of course we are going to talk about it. We're also going to talk about Invincible because the season finale for season 4 has come out. The season is over, and I've got some opinions on how it went. As always, if you have not caught up to the latest chapters or episodes, please know that there will be spoilers ahead.
Spoilers.
Okay, so let's jump into the chapter because it's a good one. Chapter 1181, A God and a Devil. So that already gives us an idea of what we're going to be running into here, but first let's talk about the cover request, which is Carrot singing as she strolls over sleeping panda sharks at sea. A cute little cover request. We have Carrot. She has a jacket on that says Queen. If you don't remember, she is now the Queen of the Meat Kingdom. She is technically their ruler, but also she wanted to travel and see the sights of the world. So this is kind of her after she's gotten that title, because you see like there's a sign that shows like where she's going. One of the names on the post points at Zhao, and that's where she's headed towards. So it's almost like she went out for a little bit to explore the world, and now she's heading back to the kingdom. Very cool, very nice. And in the back you can even see that there's like a little carrot in the clouds, and I believe the entire kingdom is based on carrots. That's just what it seems like. She has a basket of carrots, so I think it's just like all themed around carrot. Very cool. Okay, so if you remember where we left off last chapter, Loki was confronting Imu, and now we're starting with kind of a flashback, not necessarily a flashback, but more of Loki recalling what Harold said to him right before he ended up killing him, which is that he was the worst king in history and that Loki must take the throne. So Loki starts in saying, he was only 144, even though giants usually live to be about 300. He died way too soon, so he only lived essentially half his life. And Loki's like, you're the one that tricked him, so you're responsible for his death. Imu's rebuttal is that because he had taken in Harold as basically his slave, his pawn, Harold's death was inconveniencing to him the most out of everyone, which is a crazy take. So Loki charges up Ragnir, and he's about to come down with the swing. As he's like charging up, you see the clouds start to come in. You'll see the black lightning form on Ragnir, and Loki's still remembering basically how Harold died. Like he remembers walking in and Harold being stabbed by all the guards. He remembers Harold smiling at him and being like, we gotta make sure that we secure Elbeth's future. That's all that's important. And the culmination of that is him remembering and saying, back then what you did to my father. And we see this giant bolt of lightning coming from the sky, and it crashes into Ragnir. And you can see like Ragnir's face on the hammer, and we get Ragna Izuchi, which is, I think it looks like the same move that Loki used when he first stood up and got Ragnir, which is when he struck the tree. I don't remember if he got a name for that when he did it, but it looks pretty similar to how that happened because we saw the lightning come out of the sky, hit the hammer, and then he collided with the tree. This time it feels like the lightning hit the hammer first before the collision. So like he charged up the hammer and then swung with it. And you can see like the hammer itself is bigger than Imu. So like this is coming down. Imu doesn't seem to be phased at all. But we see him hold up his left arm, and we see some of the omens start to take the form of like the demon face. And so he launches the demon face at the hammer and they clash. This looks like a hockey clash because when we pull out like the full frame of the picture, we see like the lightning crashing down onto the field. And then we see the omen kind of bubbling from underneath it. So it's like the two did clash, but I'm thinking this is like a hockey clash where two things don't collide because we have that infinite space between Ragnir and Imu's like omen shadow. And we know they both have conquerors, so this isn't out of the ordinary for them to have, I would say, conqueror's coding. I will note that Imu's omen looks very fluid. So like it's almost taking the form of fire whenever we see it like surround him. But whenever I guess there's an application of it, it seems almost fluid. Like when he teleported, it looked a bit more fluid. This clash here, it looks more like bubbles than it does flames. Now this clash is so powerful that it sends people flying. We have what I think is Sanji, who is in the care of Lilith and Bonnie right now. He's flying away and they're trying to hold him down because I'm pretty sure he's unconscious after that. You have Jinbei, who is blocking in front of Nami. You see Frankie in the back there as well. And then we cut back and Loki's like, I can't believe he just tanked that. Like, where are these black flames doing? What is your power right now? And that's when we see Imu hold out his hand again and say omen. But when he does this, we see his arm just swell. Almost like when Zoro does the one gorilla, two gorilla. That's what it looks like at first. But what's happening is Imu is swelling up his whole body. So he says omen is simply Mu's military might. Which is to say like, this, it's just my power. Like, it's more than just black flames. Like it's an all-encompassing power. And that's what I was talking about last time, was where like whenever he said Omen or incited Omen, it was like the base of the power. Omen is the power, and then different things he does are different applications of Omen. And Loki's like, gigantification? How is that a part of your power? And he was like, it's power that dwells in all things. So the more and more we learn about Omen, the more it seems like it's the almost inverse of Haki, where like Haki also exists in all things, but there are certain qualifications you have to bring it all out. And so like it's the yin yang of Haki. Like there's Haki and there's Maki. And that seems to be what Imu's using primarily as a power. Now I wonder if everyone has the ability to use Maki, or if Maki kind of exists in all people and Imu has the power to control it. So they size up. Imu isn't as big as Loki, right? He's still a bit smaller, but he has definitely closed the gap in size to the point where him clashing with Loki here, he has Ragnar on one end and we have Imu on the other end. They clash. Ragnar is now like kind of matching Imu's clash. So beforehand, Ragnar was as big as Imu's body, probably even bigger. And now Imu is definitely bigger. Also to note, it seems like Imu's application of Omen on his staff basically can change whatever form it needs to be. So like we saw when he flipped his staff over, it shot a bomb that free, or I guess hit Gunko. We don't know what it did to Gunko, but he shot a bomb over that way. And now we're seeing it create almost like, not a hammer, it still has like the shadow demon face, but the application is the same as Ragnar right now, where it's clashing as a blunt object. And then Imu flips over Loki as that clash ends, and we see the base of his staff change again to a hilt with a little flame pushing out. That hilt then turns into a sword that impales Loki through his chest. So it's like he can manipulate the Omen to take whatever form he wants it to. It reminds me a lot of Ohm's abilities in Skypiea, where he had his sword, his cloud sword, that could change form based on what he wanted to. Make it a fork, make it a sword, make it a whip, a vine. That seems like what's happening here, but on a much bigger scale. Also, it's already been pointed out many times before, but the pose that Imu is doing right now on Loki is basically the exact same thing that Mihawk does when he slams his sword down in Marineford. Like it's not just like it looks similar. It's pretty much frame for frame what Mihawk is doing. Now, does that mean anything? I can't say. The thing that interests me more than like the pose is that the sword looks exactly like Yoru, even to the hilt. So like it would be different if he was doing this pose and there was just Omen shooting at the bottom of the staff. It's the fact that he made a hilt with it, and the hilt really resembles what Yoru kind of looks like here. That's what's kind of crazy to me. So we got Loki coughing up blood, and then Imu jumps off and says, strength is an attribute people naturally crave, and yet that craving can be easily satisfied via corruption. It merely requires one to submit their will to a covenant. When their envy drives them, they'll achieve power. And those three things together form a trinity. That trinity is dominion. Now, as Imu is saying this, we see him ramping up his next attack. So he pulls out his wings, he starts flying, and Loki's kind of getting up, reeling from the pain of last time. And he starts twirling his staff again. Now this time, so he's got the end of his staff again, and he's twirling one of the shadow balls on it almost like a mace, like a chain and mace. He's swinging that around. In response, Loki pulls up Ragnar again, charges it with more lightning, and he's going in for the attack. And it seems almost like Imu is just faster, because we still have Loki coming down, and we already have Imu swinging the mace towards Loki, to which like catches Loki off guard, and it ended up slamming into him. So he caught him off guard. Loki wasn't able to land his shot quite yet before we see the explosion happen. Again, Haki explosion. And as the dust is settling, we still have Loki, who hasn't fallen down. So like he's kind of bent over from taking the explosion, but he's still got Ragnar in his hands. He's still holding it up. And Imu's like, shall I grant thee the power of a god? In one step thou would be far beyond humanity. And this is Loki being like, hey, you killed Harold. Can I have you instead? He's basically just trying to see if he can get Loki to enter the same contract that Harold did to kind of restore that power he was anticipating to have. And almost instantly, and to Imu's surprise, Loki still follows through with his Ragnar swing. And as he slams down Imu, who says, I don't want it. Now he does this, and then he he sits down after. And I think Loki thinks that he did significant damage to Imu because he sits down, he sets Ragnar down, and he's like, okay, so God's dominion, that's your power. It sounds like a deal with the devil to me. And as he's saying that, Imu actually appears behind him. And this is something I didn't see on my first read, which is that Imu's like, his shadow appears behind him. Originally, I thought that basically he just no-sold the attack and was standing in the same spot. But yeah, he's flying, ends up behind Loki, and he's like, is there a difference between a god and a devil? Which is a bar. And it's the name of the chapter, by the way. So Loki hops back up, grabs Ragnar, and she's like, beats me, but I'm not gonna let myself be dominated by anybody. Imu then goes on to say, the world itself rejoices in a state of dominion. And as he's saying that, we see Loki charging up Ragnar again. But then something odd happens because Imu starts reminiscing on something. So he says, the world itself rejoices in a state of dominion. And then he thinks to himself, isn't that right? And in one panel, we have two silhouettes. One that looks like it could be Luffy or Shanks. Basically, it's a person, big smile, straw hat. Like that's very clear what that silhouette is. And then in the back, there is a figure that seems almost hooded, like Imu looks like when he's not in this current form. But they're laughing and having a good time. And based on the words before, which is like the world itself rejoices in a state of dominion, like the world is happy in a state of dominion, and he's laughing with JoyBoy, it implies volumes about what their relationship was before the war that essentially caused the Void Century. It seems like there may be a case in which Imu and JoyBoy were friends. And maybe you don't want to use friends. They were on good terms. They were on speaking terms. They were able to have conversations on another and laugh about it. At some point that existed. And Loki's still charging up. Imu's almost lost in thought and then just shouts out, isn't that right, JoyBoy? And that shout itself contains so much hockey that over where Luffy is, he's still eating. He feels that hockey. And he comments like he's never felt anything like this before. It's so suffocating. So I can't tell if Imu targeted the hockey towards Luffy being like, isn't that right, JoyBoy? And it's like, you're the JoyBoy now. Isn't that right? Or if it's just all encompassing, like he just let out this massive wave of hockey and Luffy can just feel it. But Luffy's basically trying to eat everything he can because he knows he's gonna have to fight. I think this is setting up for Loki to be defeated and for Luffy to step in. I don't think they're gonna tag team. I think that probably would have been a little bit too much. So we're just gonna be getting 1v1s. But as Imu is shouting, Loki follows through with his swing and he's just like, okay, it seems like you're lost in thought, which means you're underestimating me. So he lands his hit, sends Imu flying, like from where he is in the forest all the way into the tree, like the big trunk of the tree. So he's not just like in the small forest anymore. He's on the middle of Elbaf in that tree, like engraved in it right now, kind of like how Doflamingo was in Dressrosa. And then we see from like the flames of where he flew off from, a dragon shoot up out of the sky. So Loki has transformed back into Nidhogg and immediately shoots Thorheim. Emu's reaction to that was interesting because we saw Imu before when they encountered Nidhogg and it wasn't this shocking. Right now Emu was like, oh, Nidhogg. And like there's a bit of worry on his face. And he even does the omen that he used against Hydruden, where he has his finger out and then he has like the scope on it. Now we see when the smoke clears that it doesn't look like any damage was done. Like we see like there's like a bubble of omen around Imu and there's no damage to like the tree. There's nothing there. So it seems like he completely nullified, blocked. However he did it, he didn't take any damage from that attack, which is kind of crazy because that was a really big attack. And the fact that none of the rest of the tree, maybe the tree is like scorched and because we're not zoomed out enough, we can't see it. It doesn't seem like any of the tree got hit. So it's almost like whatever Imu did with the omen absorbed the attack. And at the very end of the chapter, we have Imu smiling a fearless smile and saying, thou really hast returned. I don't know if this is in words of JoyBoy or if this is for Nidhogg, but it seems like Imu is welcoming this return. Like it's giving Madara when Hashirama came back is what it immediately reminds me of. Like just a smoke demon waiting for another smoke demon. That like they were kind of friends, or kind of not, friendly enemies, things like that. That's what it feels like we're heading towards. And of course, that is the end of the chapter. I do believe we have a break next week. While not a jump break, I think it's Golden Week next week. So they usually do a break at that time. I'm not 100% positive. That's just what I've heard. But man, what an interesting chapter. I feel like we're getting a lot of Imu lore, and we're gonna have to enter, maybe not now. I think we're gonna have to enter a flashback of just Imu and what Imu went through, even pre-Void's entry. Like there's gotta be, there's some stuff Oda is building up here to make Imu's story more interesting. You know, this isn't just a guy with power. There is reasoning behind what's going on here. Like he's not evil just for the sake of being evil. There is a purpose. Now, whether that purpose is altruistic, whether he could possibly think he's doing the right thing, I don't think so. I think to some degree it is just a guy who wants the power of the world, but I think there's something that made him want that power, if that makes sense. There's something that drove him to the mindset he has now of ultimate domination, where it's like we tried to make the world work beforehand. It only works if people are being dominated, and someone has to be doing the domination, and that's going to be me. Like I'm going to take on that responsibility. That's what it feels like. All in all, that is the end of the chapter. I thought it was fantastic. Oda is in his bag. Oda is cooking. Cannot wait to see what comes up next. We're obviously going to be having a Luffy versus Imu fight in the future. I would like to see how well he does, because I would say right now Loki's kind of getting mid-diffed. Like he's not doing bad, that's for sure, but it seems like Imu in all of the collisions has had the upper hand. Like he's clashing with Ragnar, he's landing blows where Loki isn't. Loki got this hit off on him when he was kind of stuck in his JoyBoy thing. It doesn't seem to have done too much. Imu seems relatively unaffected, and he even blocks the Thorheim. So it's like, I would say that Imu is comfortably winning this fight. He doesn't seem like he's struggling at all. At most, he just gets caught off guard sometimes. So I would be interested to see how Luffy fares. I would say Luffy would do a little better than Loki, but I expect some of the same treatment. But we'll see. On to Invincible, because the season has ended, season 4 has wrapped up, and that last episode, it played out kind of the way I thought it was in some aspects. A lot of interesting side things have happened. It was a cool down. So the entire, let's talk about the entirety of the season, because I felt like this season was a bit better than, I feel like it was better than 3, possibly even better than 2. This might be my favorite season so far as like just character interactions, just what happens. I think this one, yeah, might be my favorite. Because like the Viltrumite War in itself put really high stakes on the series, whereas I feel like some of the other villains, they didn't feel as pressuring, because you have your episode of the week villains, you have your kind of hierarchy of villainry, and then you have the Viltrumites, who are basically what I would imagine would be the end game villains. That's how I feel the Viltrumites are as far as this particular world. And so season 4 is all about getting ready to fight them. And we have more like, I like seeing Thetis, I like seeing Nolan, I like Alan. And so them being core parts of the story at this point in time make the season far more interesting. Mark, who I normally hate, I hate him less this arc. I think there's a lot of maturing that he's done. I think he's coming around to a lot of ideology that has to come with the superhero title. Like, there was some stuff that he had to get over. There was some stuff that he had to accept if he's going to be doing this. And I think he's getting better at doing that. Oliver, on the other hand, is just terrible character. I could do with no Oliver, just because I feel like we keep putting him in the story to be a plot point for like stakes, where it's like, we need to emphasize how strong someone is, throw in Oliver. They do that with Conquest. They do that with Liu. They do that with Ragnar. They do that with any character where it's like, hey, this character is unbeatable. Let's throw this small child to show what the gap is. And so I'm kind of tired of that. The way the end of the season starts to form, I think is really great. Personally, I think Thetis has the right idea. As far as like what needs to be done to make sure that the universe is free from Viltrumites, because now we're in a really tight bind. Had Thetis done what he did, honestly, the season and the show would be over because there wouldn't be any more Invincible and there wouldn't be any more high risk stakes. So obviously they can't do that, but it's just if they did. I think episode 7 was probably the best episode because that's essentially the main fight where we have the Coalition versus the Viltrumites, and we get Ragnar and we get Thrag. And Thrag, I think from a power standpoint, I think he's really cool. From a character standpoint, he still has to grow on me a little bit because he feels immature, I guess. It feels like a very immature thinking in a adult person. That's kind of the best way I can vocalize it. Like, I think he generally cares about, like, he obviously genuinely cares about the Viltrumites and like preserving their heritage, preserving their life, their legacy. But he is willing to be like, okay, the Viltrumites will live on. If I have to kill every human for that to happen, I will. It's like a very twisted ideology of my race has to survive. It's Megatron. Is the survival of our race not worth a single human life? And it's like, I mean, I get it, but you got to consider who you're threatening. You got to consider who else has to pay the price for your twisted race to live, because you don't see it as twisted, but everybody else does. So it's like, I like the themes that they're presenting with Thrag and how he's kind of going about doing things. Also, the fighting was just, chef's kiss. Like pulling back his hand, causing like a vacuum in space and then knocking Nolan back into space. Ooh, clean. And Thrag just being like a demon overall. Like there's no way we beat him without Scourge or one of those little needles. Literally impossible. No one is strong enough. They went there to jump him. Even if they had jumped him, he literally could have speed blitzed anybody if he wanted to. And like anybody who even tried to go against him, they left horribly injured. The only person that didn't was Battle Beast, and that's because he got thrown out of orbit. Everybody else that tried to fight with Thrag, they got put on a t-shirt. They were floating in space. I think Eve, as far as like what goes on with her, that's going to be an interesting story for, I'm guessing the next season is going to be really focused on that and just their relationship. I think there's a lot there, a lot for both of them. I think Mark and Eve constantly are going through just trauma, and like every season there's just trauma with them, and they don't have time to properly work on it. I think with the next season, without the threat of the Viltrumites immediately behind him, he gains a lot more time to kind of live life. That was their biggest thing. Everything else, I think he can kind of take care of, especially now that he has Oliver and if Nolan, Coalition Planets. We have the force we need to kind of fight some big threats. We just couldn't fight the Viltrumites. But as long as they're not a threat, I think we're going to be good to take it a little bit easier. So I'm excited for the next season. Thetis was my favorite character. Unfortunately, we don't have him anymore, so I'm going to have to find a new favorite. It honestly is shaping up to be Nolan a little bit. I'm vibing with Nolan and his redemption arc right now. I'm feeling it. I don't know. There's so many characters now that have been introduced, but I don't know how they're going to be used, that I have to wait to see when that happens. Honestly, Shrinking Ray, I really like Shrinking Ray. She just didn't exist. She no longer exists in the story, I guess. And someone was telling me like in the comics, like she, against the Lizard League, she actually just dies, or like he dies, and then they just don't come back in the story. So it seems like she may have just been used as a plot point for Rex, and then once Rex is out of the picture, she's also out of the picture, which would suck. Hopefully they figure out a way to write her back in. That would be fantastic. But yeah, I think that was my favorite season so far. I think it was done pretty well. Oh, I also didn't mention the Conquest fight. I think as much as I like it thematically, I think it was kind of poorly done because time and time again, it's shown that Conquest is a physical monster, and there really shouldn't have been any way that he couldn't take Mark's arms off of him. And literally we have this man just laying into Mark's like stomach, his face, just throwing the hardest blows he can. And then whenever it comes to Mark's arms, which are the issue, which was choking him out, he'll just grab his arms and just try to wiggle them off. He's like, that didn't work. And then just go back to punch him. And then when he does the Viltrumite chop, he does it through his chest. And it's like, do it through his arms. We saw in the last season that you could easily just move your arm back and you broke Mark's leg. Even if Mark got stronger, more durable, it just means to apply more force. You could still do it. If you have enough force to pierce through his body, you could have taken out his arms. So I'm like, I get what needed to happen because we need that kind of like, Mark needs that as far as a character. So I get it thematically, I get it for the story and the plot line. I just think it doesn't make sense in actuality. If you apply logic to it, it just doesn't make sense. I also thought Conquest was, as far as like Viltrumites go, I wanted a more rogue one because I feel like the rest are all immediately loyal to Thrag, whereas Conquest was very like loose cannon. I thought that made him more interesting as far as the Viltrumites go because the rest are just yes men. But you know, it is what it is, I guess. All in all, my favorite season of Invincible so far. Can't wait to see what they do next season. That's going to end it for this episode. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.